It's been 20 years, and I'm pretty sure my stepdad is still convinced that I stole his bolt cutters.
Why would he think that?
I did borrow it. I borrowed them, and I forgot I had it.
Oh.
Then he bought it back like 5 years later at my garage sale.
Okay, to clarify, you borrowed a tool, forgot it existed, and then sold it back to the original owner?
You're kind of being aggressively accurate, but yes, that's pretty much how it went down. Today, we're talking about borrowed things, forgotten items, favorite objects, and why somehow the neurodiverse community manages to be both the borrower and the person looking for their stuff all at the same time. This is Angry on the Inside. I'm Jess.
And I'm Jeannine. We're both certified ADHD coaches, but this podcast isn't coaching.
It's not therapy or medical advice.
It's real, honest conversations about being women with ADHD diagnosed later in life and everything that goes along with it.
Take what resonates and leave the rest. For me, I've made it a personal rule. Don't lend me anything.
I have the same rule. Don't lend me anything, and I promise not to borrow anything.
Agreed. Because nobody wins.
I think most of us, we don't borrow things intending to keep them. Most of us fully intend to return them.
Life will always happen. At least ADHD will happen, which is why the bolt cutter story is real.
I think that's a funny story, but I want to know, how much did he buy it back for? And did he get a discount?
It is funny after the fact. In my defense, that was a really hard time in our lives where we had a garage sale for 3 months straight because I had gotten laid off. I was selling pretty much anything that wasn't nailed down. And he probably paid me for it knowing I needed the money so terribly bad. But he also thought I was trying to knowingly sell his possession because I needed the money so bad. And that's the part that makes it sad.
I understand exactly what happened. Can we start by saying something every ADHD person has said, which is, I was going to. And we mean it. We mean it in that moment. We're not lying. We weren't making excuses. When we borrowed it, we fully intended to return it.
People sometimes assume that forgetting means you don't care. But for most of us, it's pretty much the opposite. We care so much that when we finally remember, the shame is too overwhelming. And I've found things months later and thought, oh my gosh, they probably think I stole this. Meanwhile, I didn't even remember it existed.
Which goes back to people assume forgetting means you didn't care, which is so not true. But suddenly this tiny borrowed book has become some giant emotional burden.
That's so terrible that it is an emotional burden.
It's just a book. It's just bolt cutters.
Honest to God, not on purpose. And it's not because I'm trying to steal somebody's things. I mean, it's embarrassing when you realize this. And this happened to me so much, especially in my 30s, was when I it happened a lot and I recognized it a lot. If we did this episode 10 times in a row, I would have more than 10 different stories that lined up with the bolt cutter story, but with other people. There's a story about my husband's grandmother's card table. I am so ashamed. And I did admit it to her. When we first moved to this house, it had this big barn and garage. And we had a garage sale when we first moved to this house. And everybody's family wanted to come and sell their stuff too. And we were like, sure, that's fine. Well, Jake's grandmother brought her card table to set up 4 years later. She's like, hey guys, where's my card table? We're like, we don't have a card table. And she was like, no, I know, and I'm like, no, we don't have it. Sure as shit, we moved and we cleaned out the side of this barn that had stuff in it. It was literally pushed between two big things. There was other stuff there that wasn't ours because we were living on a farm. We had to call and be like, we are so sorry. We did have the table. We did find it. And of course, it was annihilated from being in a barn for 5 years. We were like, would you like us to buy another table? What do you need us to do? And luckily, bless her heart, she was like, no, just come and take me out to dinner and that'll be fine.
Oh.
I still remember the dinner that we took her to replace the card table that we took from her that we swore up and down we did not have and did.
Was the dinner more expensive than the card table?
We went to Outback. I remember she wanted to go to Outback.
Gotta love an Outback.
But anywho.
That's the thing. Once you've had it for so long, things disappear into the background, like furniture or farm equipment stored in a barn, but it blends in with everything else.
If I can't remember that I have 5 bottles of Windex sitting at home and I buy another one. Do you really think I'm going to remember that the bolt cutters are sitting in the garage? It's not gonna happen. I'm thankful that you understand about all of the invisible things laying around that really do exist.
because we've all experienced it in one way or another.
When we're borrowing something, it starts with urgency.
If it wasn't urgent, why would you be asking in the first place?
Nobody borrows bolt cutters because they're casually thinking about bolt cutters.
We would hope not. If you wake up and think, you know what would make today exciting is bolt cutters. There is nothing casual about that.
You borrow something trying to solve a problem. You're in the middle of a project, something's broke, you need something, and you need direct access to it right now. So what do?
ADHD brains are really good with urgency. Urgency gets our attention, gets us moving, helps us solve the problem, but the return doesn't have urgency.
The problem is solved. The urgency is long gone by the time we have to start planning to return whatever object has ended up in our space. The worst thing for me to ever lend to a person or even give to a person is a book. Somehow, some way, that book will show back up. Like, I will see it sitting on their kitchen table, or I will see it like on their bookshelf or whatever. Even if I'm like, here, you can just have the damn book because the spine's all broken and it's going to be all dog eared. And I'm like, what the fuck did you do to that book? And they're like, what are you talking about? It looked like that when you gave it to me. And I'm like, no, it didn't. And then you're like, yes, it did. The next thing I know, it's become a freaking argument. I have weird shit about books. I can't help it.
I think a lot of people do. But I think it was very important to you and you gave it to them and they seem to not care about it as much as you did. And so therefore you should be able to take it back.
Books are different because people have relationships with books. I am predisposed to be emotionally attached to a printed page that may or may not have allowed me to disassociate at the exact best time in my life. That's why my house is full of books that I've never read because I have trouble actually physically reading. I get the audiobook, then I feel like I need to physically have it in case I want to reference it again someday. So I go buy the damn book, but then it's never touched.
And never dog ear a page.
Can't say never. I've done it, but it's with shame.
Time blindness. Someone says, no rush, or you have 30 days to return something. And your brain hears, future Jeannine will handle that.
Future Jeannine never gets the memo. I wish there was a list of words that you could give to a neurotypical person that you should never, ever say to a neurodiverse person.
Don't say no rush.
When you get a chance, that one adds like an additional 3 months.
That is very true.
2 categories. We know, we've heard it now and not now. But the return that's due in 2 weeks feels exactly the same as the one that's due in 2 months.
Yeah. Until it's tomorrow or yesterday. That's when the panic sets in.
As much as I hate to say it, for me, a lot of times those deadlines, they don't even exist. We say now and not now and in a few weeks and stuff, but really it's like if that happens to pop up, I understand this about my brain and how it works. How do I lean into it? It's not by being like, I'm going to set myself 15 reminders. It's like, no, I will not borrow a tool from anyone if there is no other choice. If I do not have the means to go and get that tool, maybe. But even then, I'm scared. I'm like, can you come over and use the tool on this thing and take it with you? Would you please come and do that? Because I don't want to be responsible for the tool.
You get to a point where you understand, your version of ADHD. And if that doesn't work for you, there's no shame in saying, I don't want the pressure of having to return it. I don't want the anxiety or the panic or the shame that goes along with it. I will make sure that doesn't happen. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I do too.
People often think returning something is one task. You just take it back, done. But we know that our brains don't experience it that way. It's the find the item, find the receipt, figure out where it goes, remember to put it in the car, then actually drive there. Hope you remember while you're already out, stand in line, and then come back home.
You do come back home. And you know what? If you did, that means that item's still sitting in the back because you stood in line and you talked to somebody, but you never returned it.
Oh, how many times have I wanted to return something the other day? It was like something to Home Goods and it was in the front passenger seat. Literally same thing. Got into the garage and looked down and there it was. And I'm not going to go back out. Now it's permanently mine.
I shit you not. I am 2 months into having a thimble from Hobby Lobby $2.49, a thimble in my purse because I ended up not using it. And it would be more than that because I bought the thimble in April. We're coming into July.
Will they even take it back? I don't know if it's good or bad because for $2.49, I wouldn't bother. It would cause me so much heartache to go get $2.49. I would eat it, which
Right?
probably is not a responsible way of looking at it. Just to accept what it is.
My brain will immediately expand one errand into 12 separate parts. And it's all executive functioning task. That's where my overwhelm starts because my brain is like, we can just do it later, except later is never, ever going to arrive.
The biggest lie people with ADHD tell themselves every day is, I'll do it later because it probably will never get done. It is a hard concept for people who don't have our brains to understand. How many steps does it take to actually go return something or to the store or to a friend that you borrowed it from?
I truly wish a lot of times that my brain did prioritize by importance, but it doesn't. It prioritizes by urgency and novelty and whatever screaming loudest. Sometimes it also prioritizes by, oh, hey, this is the lesser of two evils. I can have a list of 10 things because I don't want to do it so bad. I will do this other thing that I've been avoiding for 3 months just to let that one sit and rot. And it doesn't matter what it is. Obviously, the bolt cutters didn't scream loud enough.
Very true. Returning a borrowed bowl, it isn't screaming for attention. It's quiet, doesn't create enough interest to pull your attention towards it. Your smoke detector battery, your kid forgetting their lunch, all jump in front of the line. That bowl just gets lost. If it's like me, it was on the counter and then you got sick putting it on the counter, looking at it on the counter, and then you put it in the cabinet and now it's like gone forever.
Once it goes in the cabinet, it's gone. Smoke detector batteries are one of those things that chirp and cause severe noise rage for me. And yet I will let that sucker go and beep and beep and beep.
Oh my gosh, I can't. Ooh, wow.
Which I
Yeah.
know. I know we will touch base one day on
Like, oh
on
yeah, no,
the
that would be like the top of my list. But I wouldn't remember to change the bat. It would have to chirp on me because I wouldn't do the like what you're supposed to check your batteries certain times of the year. It would have to chirp, but it would definitely get my attention.
This does bring us to something I've decided to call ADHD rules for other people.
I've heard of this rule.
I think we have completely different rules depending on which side of the situation we're standing on.
Like if I forget to return your thing, then it's because life got in the way or my ADHD happened. But there's there's a reason, an excuse, I guess.
I don't want to say excuse like tragic administrative error, unfortunate series of events. But if you forget to return my thing, now we're having a different conversation. Especially if it's one of my absolute favorite things, like my favorite pen
Or my favorite mug.
or my good scissors.
I don't know if that could say it. Everyone listening knows about a good pair of scissors.
If anybody out there listening likes to do crafts, there's a pair of scissors in your house that is not used to cut paper ever.
You saying the crafty thing. Yes, I used to get yelled at that by my mom about the paper. You can't cut paper with those scissors or whatever. So anyway,
Jeannine, I love you so much. I would take your side if your mother yelled at you for that situation.
I used to always get in trouble for using because she was sewed. She's always been crafty too. So
But you know what that means for me to say that. I would side with you.
you'd be like betraying your own. I know.
It's not like the item has to be extremely expensive or one of a kind. It has to be very much yours.
Your nervous system starts kind of a missing persons investigation. I know who had it last. I know where I saw it last. And you have a timeline for what's happened to it since.
Right? Oh, I have suspects. I have theories.
Somewhere in your house is an object that belongs to somebody else. But yeah, you haven't thought about it in 6 years?
I realize that we judge ourselves by our intentions. We judge other people by the outcome. I didn't mean to keep your thing and you didn't mean to keep my thing. And we talk about giving grace to one another, giving grace to ourselves. It's so mixed up for us. It's not landing for people. If you're like, no, that doesn't make any sense. My best example would be my mom. I tried so hard when I was a kid and a teenager. And then when I lived with her again in my 20s, because you got to circle back. But all of those times, I tried to make sure I was never, ever, ever the last person to use something. Because when it broke, I was the one who must have broken it.
Mm.
And it's the same idea. Because in that moment, suddenly there is a who broke this shit investigation.
Because you want to prove yourself innocent.
Who took it? You're looking to prove yourself innocent. That is exactly right. That
Yes.
is like the vibe and the feeling that I get when it comes to these types of things. I'm not going to talk about it for too long, but I think money needs to enter the conversation because it's the same concept as borrowing a tool or a pen. It's the same idea, but it really raises the stakes. This is what can really impact relationships. I try to not lend money unless I can absolutely say with all honesty, I do not need it and that I do not want it back. Um, it's sort of like giving a gift. Once you've given that gift, the gift has served its purpose. If you make money a gift, it served its purpose. Whatever they choose to do with that money, whether it's what they told you they were going to do with it or not, that sort of releases the issue that can come between families and friends because money is perceived so differently. It's
Yeah.
perceived like actual slight. And it's really easy for neurodiverse brains to put off paying things. There's always something that's intense or grabbing our attention that needs to get paid that somehow that friend, that loved one doesn't end up getting paid back. And it can cause real relationship struggles. So if there's one thing I would say about money is that yes, it falls into the same line as borrowing a tool, but it's a case that if you can ever avoid it, do because it always, always causes complications. Let's shift the conversation a bit because sometimes it is not about forgetting. Sometimes it is about shame.
That is a powerful distinction. Person who forgot to return it because they didn't mean to keep it. And then the person who broke something and then doesn't want to return it is, I think, becomes more about they're afraid to have the conversation. They don't know how to let the other person know because those are really big feelings around it. And sometimes ADHD brains don't do well with big feelings. We tend to push them away and avoid them. And then it suddenly snowballs.
Ugh, it does. I'm avoiding that conversation. The person who never returned the thing, the person who never paid you back, they may have been carrying around a lot more shame and embarrassment than you realized.
That's true. At the same time, I think being hurt by those things is valid too.
It really is. That's what makes it so hard. It's like
Yeah.
it doesn't dismiss the other person's feelings. We know that we struggle with it. We know we have good intentions. It doesn't negate the fact that you fucked up. It doesn't negate the fact that you hurt someone's feelings unintentionally. We're avoiding those difficult situations, those difficult conversations.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're letting them build up in us. And yet we have those situations with other people where we're on the other side and we're not taking the initiative to look and see and be like, oh, hey, if you're worried about that, don't.
Yeah.
Or I know we never got that back, but that's okay.
Look, I know you never returned it, but I'm not asking you for it. Let it go.
Sometimes we got to verbally give some grace. We got to verbalize. We hold so much inside of our heads. I wish, I don't know. I guess I don't. Never mind. I was going to say I wish my brain had subtitles, but if it did, God, I'd be in deep shit.
No, you don't. You don't want
Yeah.
people to be able to read your mind.
God, no. God, no. But I do think that's why this conversation resonated with both of us because almost all of us really have been on both sides.
We've both been the borrower and the lender.
We've both been the person who forgot, and we've been the person who never forgets.
Yeah. And the person who accidentally adopted someone else's property.
And the person conducting an investigation over a favorite mug. The more I experienced these situations in my life, I realized it's not really about objects
No, it's about relationships and about expectations.
and about the misunderstandings of just being human. That's something the neurodiverse population, the community, we really struggle with. We never ever want to hurt people. But in turn, we feel like we get hurt so often by others. These acts, they make you kind of dissect what's happened in the past. It's kind of a weird ride.
Yeah. Well, part of having ADHD for sure.
Yes.
If you've been carrying around guilt because you found someone's sweater, God forbid, the casserole dish that you borrowed 2 Thanksgivings ago, you're definitely not the only one.
Managing attention, working memory, executive functioning. Sometimes those systems they fail. That doesn't make you a bad friend or a selfish person. If this episode made you think about someone you've borrowed from or someone who's been carrying around your favorite mug for the last 5 years, send it to them. Not because you're asking for the mug back, but because sometimes understanding each other is worth a lot more than whatever got left behind.
Until next time, remember, you're not alone and you're not the only one who's angry on the inside.